In 1906, the U.S. Army sealed an emergency ration in a tin and forgot about it. In 2019, somebody opened it, prepared it, and walked away unharmed. That ration was pemmican, dried meat sealed in rendered tallow, made the way Plains tribes had made it for centuries. Now compare July 2007, when FDA inspectors pulled 17 swollen cans from a Castleberry's warehouse in Augusta, Georgia, and 16 tested positive for botulinum toxin. 8 people were hospitalized. Carl Hours of New London, Ohio, spent 16 days on a ventilator at the Cleveland Clinic. Same goal, different methods. One worked for 113 years. The other failed in months. I read the FDA inspection reports, the CDC outbreak summaries, and the National Center for Home Food Preservation protocols, so you don't have to. Here are the 5 real ways to keep meat without refrigeration, what makes each one work, and exactly where each one breaks. Before any of that, understand the rule that ties this whole video together. Every method on this list works by removing at least one of 3 things bacteria need: water, oxygen, or a neutral pH. Salt curing pulls water out. Smoking pulls water out and adds antimicrobial phenols. Drying pulls water out. Canning kills the bacteria with heat and locks out oxygen. Fat preservation locks out oxygen. Anything that skips at least one of those 3 is the shortcut that puts you in the hospital. Memorize that, because every failure case in this video is going to come back to it. We start with the oldest one. Salt curing is the technique behind country ham, prosciutto, salt pork, jamon iberico, bresaola, and guanciale. The method is exactly what it sounds like. Rub salt directly onto fresh meat, often combined with sugar, pepper, and a small amount of sodium nitrite required by federal safety rules, and let osmosis pull the water out. Or submerge the meat in a brine, typically a 3 to 5% salt solution, sometimes pushed as high as 9 or 10% for tougher cuts. Either way, salt binds the water inside the meat so tightly that bacteria physically cannot multiply. The USDA FSIS shelf-stable. Food safety guidance is unambiguous about this. Dry cured hams are shelf-stable, and they are safe at room temperature because they contain so little water that bacteria can't multiply in them. That is the whole science in one sentence. This is also not theoretical. In colonial America, USDA records show food preservation required 40 pounds of salt per person per year. That number tells you how seriously this method was taken before electricity. And it is still being taken seriously now. Alan Benton, working out of Madisonville, Tennessee, dry cures roughly 12,000 hams a year using salt, brown sugar, and black and red pepper, then ages them anywhere from 9 to 30 months. He was inducted into the James Beard Foundation's Who's Who of Food and Beverage in America in 2015. Savir called him one of the most respected producers in the United States. He didn't get there with shortcuts. There is even a state law that locks the protocol in. Virginia's 1926 statute, amended in 1966, requires that any ham labeled Genuine Smithfield be cured by the long cure dry salt method and aged for a minimum of 6 months, all within Smithfield town limits. That's the most specific cure protocol law on the U.S. books, and it exists because the method works. At home, you can do this. The smart entry point is pork belly bacon using equilibrium curing, 2.5 to 3% salt by meat weight, refrigerator temperatures, 7 to 14 days. A digital kitchen scale is non-negotiable because volume measurements like teaspoons are not accurate enough for safety when the salt percentage is doing the actual preservation work. Whole muscle hams come later, after a temperature-controlled aging space, because they require months, not days. Poultry should not be salt-cured at home. The moisture content is too high and the risk profile is wrong. Now the failure mode, the cure protocol itself is robust. What breaks is everything around it. The 2024 Boar's Head Listeria outbreak killed 10 people across 19 states and hospitalized 60 more. The Jarratt, Virginia plant where it originated had logged 69 USDA regulatory violations between August 2023 and August 2024, including documented black mold, mildew, insects, blood pooling on the floor, and dripping condensation on exposed product. The cure didn't fail, the facility did. If you are buying cured meat as a finished product, look for producers who name their salt percentage and cure time. Vague, naturally cured claims often mean industrial accelerated processes that lean on additives instead of time. Salt does the preservation work, but smoke does something salt alone can't. It builds a protective layer on the surface. Smoking is the second method, and it is almost never used alone. The smokehouse foreman who knows what he is doing cures the meat first. The smoke is a layer, not a substitute. The National Center for Home Food Preservation, the USDA-funded program out of the University of Georgia, describes the combination of salt curing and controlled exposure to smoke as creating an inhospitable environment for harmful microorganisms. That phrase matters. It is the cure that drives water out. It is the smoke that adds antimicrobial phenolic compounds and dries the surface further. Together they work. Smoke alone on uncured meat is mostly just flavor. There are two kinds. Cold smoke runs below 86 degrees Fahrenheit, around 30 degrees Celsius, and is used as a flavor and surface antimicrobial finish, never the primary preservative. Hot smoke runs above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the bottom of the food safety danger zone, and ideally to a target internal temperature, which both flavors and partially cooks. The order matters. Cure first, then smoke. The operators doing this right are scattered across the South. Darden Hams in Isle of Wight County, Virginia, salts for 50 days, ages in the family smokehouse for 6 months, then smokes with applewood and oak. They cure 1,200 hams a year and recently announced a $1.2 million expansion to bring more capacity back to the region known as the ham capital of the world. Edwards, Virginia Smokehouse hand salt cures and Hickory smokes hams aged to a rich mahogany color. Benton smokes its cured pork bellies for 3 to 4 days over Hickory after a 30-day cure. None of these producers are using shortcuts, and none of them are pretending the smoke does the preservation work the salt is doing. At home, the practical entry is hot smoking. Cold smoking demands airflow management, sustained temperature control under 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and a properly cured product first. Hot smoking pulled pork or brisket to a USDA safe internal temperature, which is 145 degrees Fahrenheit for whole muscle and 165 degrees Fahrenheit for poultry, is far more accessible for beginners and far more forgiving when conditions vary. The failure mode here is what regulators call a persistent listeria vector. Cold smoked products like smoked salmon and certain fermented sausages carry listeria risk because the smoke temperature does not pasteurize. In March 2022, Boyd Specialties of Colton, California, recalled approximately 1,634 pounds of ready-to-eat jerky after a routine FSIS sample tested positive for Listeria monocytogenes. That's the same pathogen that killed the 10 Boar's Head victims. The lesson the smokehouse veterans drill into apprentices is visual. Gray surface mold on a properly aged country ham is normal and a sign of correct cure. Green, black, or fuzzy mold on jerky or fat-packed meat is spoilage. The visual difference is the difference between a $200 heritage ham and a trip to the emergency room. If smoke and salt are about transforming meat slowly, the third method is about getting the water out fast. Drying is the most ancient method on this list. USDA-FSIS calls it the world's oldest and most common method of food preservation. older than canning by thousands of years, and the foundation of every ration food in human history, from biltong in Africa to chark in South America to pemmican on the North American plains. The mechanism is simple. Remove water below the threshold bacteria need, and bacteria stop multiplying. A pound of fresh meat, by USDA's own measurements, reduces to about 4 ounces after being dried into jerky. Here is the part most home jerky makers do not know, and it is the kind of detail that turns a backyard hobby into an emergency room visit. A dehydrator running at 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit will not heat the meat itself to bacteria-killing temperatures. Why? Because evaporating moisture absorbs almost all the heat. The strips dry, but the inside of the meat never reaches a pasteurization temperature. And then it gets worse. After drying, the bacteria that survive become significantly more heat-resistant. So if you try to fix it later, you can't easily. The fix is order of operations. The USDA Meat and Poultry Hotline's current recommendation is to heat meat to 160 degrees Fahrenheit internal, 165 degrees Fahrenheit for poultry, before the dehydrating step. Bake the strips at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes to hit that internal temperature, then drop the dehydrator to 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and dry until the strip bends and cracks but does not break in half. The alternative is post-heating. Dry first, then put the finished jerky in an oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. Either order works. Just dehydrating raw meat does not. The USDA didn't pull this protocol out of thin air. They revised the jerky compliance guidelines in 2003 specifically because of a Salmonella Kiambu outbreak traced to jerky produced in New Mexico. The drying process there ran very slow under low humidity, which let the bacteria become heat-resistant before any pasteurization temperature was reached. People got sick. The rules changed. And while we're on the subject, USDA explicitly says, do not sun-dry meat at home. The contamination risk and unsteady heat make it the one drying method that is genuinely dangerous in modern conditions. Now, the high-fat ration cousin. Pemmican is the Native American method, the Cree word pemmican, meaning manufactured grease. Lean dried meat is pounded to powder, then mixed approximately 1-to-1 by weight with rendered tallow from suet. 3,000 calories per pound. European fur traders adopted it. Lewis and Clark relied on it. Shackleton and Amundsen carried it on polar expeditions. The 1906 ration that opened this video was pemmican, and the reason it stayed safe for over a century is that the dried meat had no water for bacteria to use, and the rendered tallow sealed out the oxygen. The fat rule, the one the prepper builder community will tell you up front, use suet rendered to tallow, not lard, not vegetable oil. Lard is too soft and goes rancid faster. Vegetable oils oxidize. Tallow stays solid at room temperature, resists rancidity, and forms the protective lipid matrix that distinguishes pemmican from jerky. Practical shelf life numbers. Home-dried jerky should be consumed within 1 to 2 months at room temperature. Commercially inspected jerky stored cool in dry can keep up to 12 months. Pemmican made with only meat and tallow, stored in a cool, dark place, can last 1 to 5 years. Vacuum sealed, it pushes into decades. If drying preserves by removing water, canning preserves by killing the bacteria outright with heat. And it is the only modern method on this list. The science is exact. A retort sterilizes at 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 121 degrees Celsius, under pressure. 3 minutes at that temperature inactivates the most heat-resistant Group 1 Clostridium botulinum spores. That is why USDA FSIS states pressure canning is the only method recommended safe by the U.S. Department of Agriculture for low-acid foods, including all meats, poultry, and seafood. The dangerous shortcut to name explicitly is water bath canning of meat. USDA does not approve it. The CDC's National Botulism Surveillance reports show home canned foods remain the leading cause of foodborne botulism in the continental United States year after year, and almost every documented case traces back to either water bath canning of low-acid food or to a deviation from a USDA-tested recipe. Now, the cautionary climax, July 2007. Castleberry's food company, a Bumblebee Foods subsidiary in Augusta, Georgia. FDA investigators pulled 17 swollen cans from the firm's own warehouse. 16 tested positive for botulinum toxin, 8 confirmed botulism cases across Texas, Indiana, and Ohio. The recall expanded from 721,239 pounds to roughly 10 million pounds, covering 91 product types under more than 80 retailer private label brands, from Kroger and Walmart's Great Value to Piggly Wiggly to Steak and Shake branded chili. The plant's operating permit was suspended again in March 2008 after further deviations. The investigation found improperly maintained and operated retorts, malfunctioning cooling water valves, and faulty alarm indicator lights and improperly calibrated temperature monitoring devices. That is what a commercial canning failure actually looks like in the public record. The home version is just as serious. June 2024, Fresno County, California. 8 people hospitalized after eating home-canned no-pails. 2 required mechanical ventilation. The response temporarily depleted CDC heptavalent antitoxin supplies at the California port stations for 48 hours. There was a 2021 Georgia outbreak from home-canned potatoes and sausages. Every documented foodborne botulism outbreak from properly executed pressure canning following a USDA-tested recipe, 0. Read that sentence again. The protocol works. The shortcuts kill people. Equipment trust matters here. 2 brands have earned it generationally. The Presto 23-quart pressure canner is made by National Presto Industries in Wisconsin, has been on the market over 50 years, and carries a 12-year limited warranty. The All-American canner from Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry has been manufactured since 1930 with a metal-to-metal sealing system that requires no annual gasket replacement. And the All-American 921 is the model most cited in hand-down testimonials. There is also the Presto Precise Digital Pressure Canner, Model 02144, the first electric pressure canner that meets USDA pressure canning guidelines and walks the user through every step, including the venting cycle. None of this is endorsement. It is the public record list of what the protocol actually requires. The protocol resource itself, the National Center for Home Food Preservation at the University of Georgia, is the only public USDA-aligned authority on tested home pressure canning recipes for meats. The Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving and the USDA published So Easy to Preserve, 6th edition from 2020, are the print standards, specifics for cubed meat, 90 minutes at 10 psi for quart jars at sea level in a weighted gauge canner, plus 1 additional minute of boiling time per 1,000 feet of elevation when serving. Inspect every jar and can before opening. Discard anything dented at the seam, leaking, bulging, or rusted through. Surface rust that wipes off with a paper towel is fine. Internal rust is not. Canning works by removing oxygen with a vacuum seal. There is one older method that does the same thing, by sealing meat under fat instead of glass. Confit is the 5th and final method, and it is the one that demands the most respect for what can go wrong. The technique dates to at least the 13th century in the Gascony region of southwest France, where rural households kept duck, goose, and pork through long winters in earthenware crocks called topettes. The method: salt cure the meat for 18 to 36 hours, slow cook it fully submerged in its own rendered fat at 185 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, around 85 to 95 degrees Celsius, for 4 to 10 hours, transfer to sterilized crocks, then cap with an inch of solidified pork lard, because lard hardens more solidly than duck fat and forms a better airtight seal. Anne Willan put it plainly in regional French cooking. Goose is normally cooked in goose fat, duck in duck fat, and pork in lard, though lard can be used for everything. Two ingredients do the actual preservation work. Salt in the cure drives the water out and creates a bacteriostatic surface. Fat in the seal excludes the oxygen. Without the salt cure, the fat alone is not enough, because anaerobic environments are exactly what Clostridium botulinum needs to grow. An unsalted, fat-sealed jar is a botulism trap. That is the warning that has to ride with this method every time it is taught. Modern realistic shelf life numbers, applied honestly, USDA does not endorse storing confit at room temperature. With a curing salt, sodium nitrite sold as Cure No. 1 or Prague Powder No. 1, and a vacuum-sealed bag, refrigerated confit lasts 4 months and frozen 6 months or more. Without curing salt, refrigerated 1 to 2 months. This is honest pre-refrigeration craft adapted to modern food safety reality. Rillettes is the cousin. Confit meat shredded and packed under a fat seal, smaller portions, easier home application, same principles. Every preservation method on this list survives in living practice today, not because it was invented in a lab, but because somebody's grandmother, somebody's smokehouse foreman, or somebody's expedition cook documented it well enough that the protocol survived. The methods don't fail, the shortcuts fail. So here is the filter to carry into your kitchen. 3 questions. First, is the protocol from USDA-FSIS, the National Center for Home Food Preservation, or a USDA-aligned extension service like the University of Georgia or Penn State Extension? If not, do not use it. Second, does the method remove at least one of the 3 things bacteria need: water, oxygen, or a neutral pH? If not, do not use it. Third, have you followed the exact processing time and temperature for your specific altitude and jar size? If not, do not use it. 2 methods, same goal. The 1906 pemmican worked because somebody followed a protocol that had been refined for centuries. The 2007 Castleberry retorts failed because somebody didn't. Now you know which is which. Don't stockpile beyond what your household will rotate, because preserved meat forgotten on a shelf still depends on the seal holding. And the rule that overrides everything else: when in doubt, throw it out. There is no preserved meat in the world worth a hospital bed. Voice settings.